I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody have time to go over the minutes? First by legislator Walpole. Second by legislator Langenau. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you very much. Legislator Wilbur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to move the following committee agenda items: government, public safety, human services, health, as a block by consent for approval.
I have a first by legislator Wilbur, second by legislator Walpole.
No, I'm also.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you very much. We'll move back to EP1, resolution authorizing budgetary modification Department of Community Development, Tourism, Planning, Transportation Funds.
Move it.
First by legislator Wilbur, second by legislator Bowles. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you. Class 3.
EP4.
I'm sorry, EP4, sorry about that. Resolution of the county legislature of the county of Oswego, New York, approving the Oswego County Civic Facilities Corporation refunding revenue bond series 2021. Oswego School District Public Library Project issuing an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $500,000.
$5 million.
$5 million.
Close.
Move it.
I got a first by, I know. I got a first by legislator Langenau and a second by legislator Lockwood. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you. FP1. Resolution amending the drug-free workplace policy for the county of Oswego.
Move it.
First by legislator Wilbur, second by legislator Walpole. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you. FP2. Resolution authorizing professional services contract, Human Resources Department, Safety Services Consultant.
Move it.
First by legislator Langenau, second by legislator Walpole. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you. FP3, resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Office of Strategic Initiatives and American Rescue Plan funds.
Move it.
First by legislator Wilbur, second by legislator Lockwood. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you. FP4, resolution authorizing budgetary modification, American Rescue Plan funds. First by legislator Wilbur, second by legislator Holtz. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you.
We have an additional resolution, Mr. Chairman.
Where we go?
The American Rescue Fund transfer to Oswego Health.
I don't ever see that.
Yes, it's been via email. It's there.
I thought it was in my packet. This was this? Okay. All right, I'd like to,
Pass it around.
we pass them around. Good. Oh, okay. Sorry, I apologize. FP5, resolution allocating American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds to Oswego Health for medical worker recruitment and retention program.
Move it.
First by legislator Wilbur, multiple seconds throughout. Terry, would you like to speak on this a little bit, and what you've done?
Well, this is something that Oswego Health came to us, made a request for some assistance, especially with the medical worker crisis that we're in right now. This is going to help alleviate some of the issues and make sure that the health is really given great priority here in our county. Oswego Health has facilities throughout our whole county and is mainly our major health organization here. So it's definitely something to help with recruitment and retention for their plan, and it'll, do both short and long-term assistance for them.
I understand, you work with the journalists.
Dave's been Phil's been the chairman.
And the chairman. Thank you. Any other questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Thank you. We got committee decisions here? Yes. Yes. We have to establish a salary for a full-time assistant district attorney. Where's Julie?
I'm Julie.
Oh, you're Julie. You're Julie today.
I'm Julie.
Okay. What do you have on this?
I don't have much on this. Would Greg like to speak on it, or? Okay.
Thank you. As some of you know, we had a couple of vacancies in the DA's office in August. This is to fill one of the two positions. There was a qualified candidate who has prior prosecutorial experience in a couple of DA's offices, and currently works as a public defender in the county out in the western part of the state. She's been a practicing attorney for a number of years, has litigation experience both criminally and in the civil context. So what we're looking to do is bring her in at the appropriate step that's commensurate with her experience and qualifications, set a salary of $81,089. Please.
Do we have questions on this?
I'll make a motion.
First by legislator Wilbur, second by legislator Walpole. Okay, do we have questions?
This won't create any issues with any of your other APs or anything.
No.
It seems like anytime we do something like this, we always came back and said, well, hey, you just said this.
No. And
Under control.
And she's coming in under the salary of the most full-timers who have significant experience. She's above the EDAs who've been there 2-3 years. They're going to be inconsistent with their experience. Everyone's just recognizing that they have no body. So I don't think it's going to create any issues.
Yeah, it's
What's the base on this?
The base is
68
68,009,
something. Yeah.
basically 69,000.
Is she coming from a different county?
She is. And I talked to her about moving here. Her intention is to rent a place to begin with, at least initially, and hopefully be able to set up a permanent residence or buy a place, but at least initially move here away. And the salary is approximately $7,000 below the salary of the outgoing EDA. So all in all, it's going to create a savings to the county.
Can I ask what county she's coming from, or am I not allowed to say?
Yates County.
Yates.
One of the good ones.
Okay. Any other questions?
They're out.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Do you want me to go line by line?
No, we can move them in blocks.
Okay, all right, so per department, basically? All
Yes.
right, so we've got 911 has 2 vacancies with health communicators, both due to resignations.
Nope. Second.
I got a first and legislator Walpole, second from legislator Wilbur.
Okay, building and grounds have.
Hold on.
Okay, sorry.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries, thank you.
Got it now, okay.
Support.
Building grounds has a cleaner due to retirement, and then a cleaner part-time, which will be a backfill due to that.
Okay. First by legislator Walpole,
Second.
second by legislator Reno. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carries, thank you.
All right, the highway department has a few here. We've got a heavy equipment operator due to a resignation, a backfill of a medium equipment operator due to that resignation, another heavy equipment operator due to a retirement, and then the medium equipment operator backfill to that. Crew leader due to a resignation, and then the backfills to that would be a heavy equipment operator and a medium equipment operator.
Second.
I got a first by legislator Walpole, second by legislator Wilbur. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries, thank you.
And then probation does have 3 due to retirement, 2 probation supervisors and 1 senior probation officer.
I got a first by legislator Wilbur, second by legislator Lockwood. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries, thank you.
Sheriff's Department has an auto mechanic temporary, that is behind someone that's out on an unpaid LOA, and a criminal investigator due to retirement.
Move it.
First by legislator Wilbur, second by legislator Mangano. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries, thank you.
Social Services has a senior social welfare examiner due to retirement, the backfill to that, which is a social welfare examiner, and then a caseworker A due to resignation.
Okay. First by legislator Mangano, second by legislator Walpole. Any discussion? Quick question, how are we doing on filling the positions that were already out there and open?
It's hit and miss. We're having trouble with the higher end positions and the lower end positions. So the lower end positions, we've even had people slated to start and they just don't show up. A lot of people not showing up for their interviews, refusing interviews, not returning phone calls. So within the assistance programs, Bridget's having to time replacements because she had principal vacancies and senior vacancies, but if we fill those too quickly, then we have nobody at the line level that can process the work. So she's trying to gauge that and do that accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries, thank you.
Unless you want the savings today, I got that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the total 2021 savings today as of September 19th is $2,626,895.57.
Thank you. So we on course, or where are we? I'm trying to look for it here, but where are we compared to last year and the year before?
Let's see. I'm not sure if I have. So as of, the total for last year, so we're above where we are. We were at a total of 2020. So 2020's total is $2,345,679. So we're already surpassing that. I'm sorry, that was for September, but we're still surpassing that.
All right. Okay, Bill, yes, go ahead. Sorry, Bill. Okay, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I passed around your monthly variance report for you to take a look through, and although things vary from department to department, the primary numbers are on your last page. This report was run yesterday, showing that as of yesterday, we'd spent about $2.7 million less than at the same time last year. So if anybody has any questions on that, please give me a call as you go through it. Also, in terms of budget development, it's coming along nicely, and I expect to have a draft for the legislature in the final week of October.
What can you contribute most of the savings to?
I haven't looked that far into it, but I assume some of it is the debt and the personnel.
Right. Okay. Any other questions for Phil? Purchasing.
Okay,
Hi, how you doing?
good, how are you? We just sent out a request for qualifications for engineering firms, so we could put together a pre-bidders list. And they came in on Monday, so now we're reviewing them to put together a list for the legislature to take a look at and approve. We're working with Bob Brown on contract management. We want to utilize Munis so that eventually all the contracts will be loaded into Munis and we won't be running around the building trying to find out where all the contracts are. So, and then next week, we have 3 vendors coming in to go around and do a survey of all our copiers and printers. So we're finally going to replace printers and copiers. So those are the big 3 things we're doing now.
Forewarning us, are you?
Yes. Well, I guess a lot of the departments, their printers are on their last leg, so.
Like, you mean our clerk that has to go down the floor in order to print some county stuff?
Well, it's back.
Yeah.
Yes. So, they're gonna come in, they're gonna submit proposals to us. So,
Okay. Look forward to it. Anybody have any questions for purchasing? Very good. Next.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
All righty. So I just want to give you a couple updates. I did hand out to the committee the presentation that's going on later after I get done speaking. But in the back, you'll see an updated sales tax number. Don't ask me why. It came in early today, and it was 1.6 million down from last year. So I want to make sure I always tell you if it's copacetic and pretty normal, I always send it through the committee packet. If I see anything that is kind of a watch out, I'd like to give everybody a heads up. Again, the thing to think about with this is the state does sales tax on averages, and then they do an action. So I'm not saying this could be part of it, because last year's sales tax, remember everybody was buying toilet paper online? There's some things in that. So I don't see we don't need to press the panic button. We're still way up from last year. So I just want to make you aware that this one check was a little bit down. Next is the foreclosure auction. Bidding is online at Color City Auctions. You can buy your next, you can't, but you can buy your next, home in Oswego County by going online. It ends the 20th, and then 21st is the live auction. Should be over within 4 hours. And guess what? There's been no sweat, no issues that I'm hearing about. We don't have to get a place to get an auctioneer. We don't have to solicit the sheriff to give us a couple guys and a metal detector, and we can spend all day listening to people argue. Now that we do it online, 4 hours, you're done, and the problem is the properties are not the best, I don't believe. We still have some that are because of the moratorium, that we've held 23 of them. And until that ends, we can't really do anything with those properties. So these properties are pretty much vacant and land and landlocked. So I just, you can go out and take a look. There's booklets I actually should have printed that I just gave legislator holes. Next, I just want to touch on it, so you don't have to go too depth. But employee self-service is a system set up in Munis that offers the availability to do many things. One of the things it's meant to do is payroll, and it's very similar to what we do now. And what we're doing, working with HR and IT, 3 departments are actually working on this. And we're going out there training departments, getting it started to make sure that it's going to run right in the training phase in Munis. And we'll offer the opportunity to make sure that retirement is right at the year end. It makes it a lot easier in regards to doing your payroll. It's really actually it's pretty much similar. HR, I know.
Very user friendly.
Oh, thank you.
Very.
Yes, we got trained today.
Yeah.
Great.
Now,
That's a good thing.
yeah, it's a good thing. Unfortunately, I have to say, by instituting all these online processes that the treasurer's office has done, there's going to be negativity. And we're ready for it. We're used to it. You know, we had 1,500 kids, over 1,500 college kids, all register online for their certificate of residency. Not an issue. It took 2 years to get there. It's going to may take a little bit. I hope it doesn't impact anybody's payroll. But like again, there's 8 people on this, so it's not just 2 people, and we're willing to go out and look over your shoulder to get it going. The other thing, this opportunity, this is just a start. So in the future, you can do your expense reports. No more pen. No more trying to figure out where they went or how long they went. It's all done right on in your employee self-service. You can go in and change your deductions. You can change your name when you get married, Jay, and you can change your how much you want taken out of your tax, whatever. It gives you the ability to do that. The RPCs that we all departments have to do, I think we're trying to eliminate that. We should be cheering about that because those RPCs, I'm not the brightest, I struggle. That's probably why. So the employee self-service, you're going to hear more about it. I encourage the negativity. I want it on us. I want it on HR, I want it on the treasurer's office, and I want it on IT. And I know IT's actually hurting right now by the email I just saw. They're a very pivotal aspect of this, making this work. So again, if there's any issues, please let us know about this employee self-service. Vacation scheduling, just as everything. I mean, I can't say that. Okay. Next is presentation from our auditing firm, Drescher and Malecki. Worked with them for the past 4 years. The 2 gentlemen are here, are Carl and Jared, to explain how our future looks, how our past looked rather, and probably you'll see how our future looks from it. I have to commend them because the way the process works is they don't send the same people in. They actually rotate people in and out, which is great because you don't want the same people coming in and reviewing the same stuff. I guess right now, I told them they got to keep it 15, 20 minutes, and I think you're prepared to. So if you want to start your thing and you can throw something at me, I'll just move the...
Get the verbal cues.
Yeah, just move it or...
Well, I'll stand. I feel like I should jump in the middle of the
Yeah,
ring and
that would
spin
be
around, but
Yeah.
good afternoon,
We can just
everyone.
get you up where we can see you, that'd be good.
All right.
Well, let's work that though. Is there any questions about anything that I said about the employee self-service? Anything?
When's that gonna fully go into effect?
Okay, we're in training mode right now. 4 departments have been trained. We're looking at hopefully within the next week or 2 to try to get some of this going. It's not going countywide. We got executive time that does time clocks. That's going to run in kind of a parallel. We want to utilize that, but the buildings and grounds, actually, they met over there the other day. So it's in training mode. Before, there's supposed to be a resolution that Rich wanted to get before the board. Before I do a resolution, I want to make sure it's almost like 100% there. So you're probably looking at next month.
So before the end of the year.
Oh God, it has to be because of the retirement and the other. Instead of doing a drop-dead retirement, this gives us the opportunity to roll. So you don't get a check on Wednesday and then get another one on Thursday. This will help us roll into the next year. Okay, sorry about that. No other questions?
Any other questions for Kevin before we move forward?
Okay.
What are you worried about? All right.
Well,
I can get a second check from my wife.
oh, you know what? The employee self-service gives you the ability to separate your check from your spouses as well. So you can move 3, 4, 5 thousand bucks.
Wait a minute, how does that work?
So if you're ready when it comes out, you do it weekly.
Okay. So personal training sessions for that one.
We hear it all the time from the employees.
What's that?
I don't want my wife to see my check.
You're right.
My wife said that.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us today. My name's Carl Widmer. I'm the partner at Drescher Malecki. I've been the engagement partner on this engagement. This will be my 3rd year. And then Jared Picard also came with me today. But we always have the opportunity to work with management throughout the course of the audit. But we bring it up every year and we said, maybe it is time to get in front of this group and just if anything, get familiar with the faces, right? And we can help explain what it is that we do, why we're hired, and then also come in and give a little summary of how the year went. So that's what we're here to do today. The audit was actually issued and finalized last month in September. The county carries a September 30th deadline for all reports to be due. That's always been met. So those reports are there. The first slide that we want to cover here, this is the deliverables. You know, Drescher Malecki comes in and what you get at the end of it. First off is the financial statements, should come as no surprise. That's what we're here. Our primary purpose is to audit the financial statements. Along with that is something called a single audit. And because the county receives a significant portion of federal money, federal aid, and then administers federal programs, you're subject to a compliance audit at the federal level. So we basically act as an extension of the federal government at that point, and we take their compliance requirements and put the county of Oswego through this compliance audit. So that's part of our audit as well. Similar to federal awards, if you receive a certain dollar amount in New York State Department of Transportation money, you're subject to a New York State compliance audit. We also perform that for you as well. Auditor communications and management letter, those are 2 letters that we issue. Basically just reiterates what were the responsibilities of each party throughout the engagement. So we have an engagement letter or a contract with the county, and it spells out, you know, what Kevin and his office and everybody that we deal with at the county, what's their end of the bargain in order for us to complete a successful audit. So access to records, you know, you can't withhold any information. Represent that everything that you gave to us was true and accurate. You know, they're not copies that were manipulated or anything like that. And then from our end, that we perform an audit under generally accepted auditing standards in the United States. So that's our side. A management letter gives us the opportunity to provide some best practices or recommendations that we might have. We're auditing now, we have 19 New York State counties that we do the audit for. So while each county definitely has its own unique aspects and ways of doing things, there's many items that are universal across New York State counties, especially when it comes to financial statements and the different policies and procedures. So we're able to share if we see a really good investment policy, a really good purchasing policy, we would want to bring that to the county of Oswego to see if you'd like to care to implement any of these at your county. And the management letter is sort of our forum for that. And then we also take care of a couple smaller reports. We do some procedures over at the jail commissary and also do a certification for a cost report to mental hygiene. So that's what the product is each and every year. Auditor communications, this will be brief, but each year as your external auditors, we have to communicate these things to those responsible for hiring us. We're able to communicate these with the treasurer each year, but for this group, why we're hired is ultimately for our opinion. There's a couple sheets of paper in your financial statements that might be 100 pages long. Those are the county's financial statements, but there's a few pages in there that have our letterhead on it, and that's why we're hired. It's called our opinion. So whether it be resident taxpayers, granting agencies, bond market, they are all looking for third-party verification or assurance that the county of Oswego's financial statements can be relied upon as being accurate. So that's where we come in. We give that assurance. We perform our audit to ultimately provide our opinion, kind of the stamp of approval that, hey, anybody who's running through these reports, you can trust that they are fair and accurately represent the balances as of, in this case, December 31st, 2020, and the revenues and the expenditures that are included in there for the 12 months thereafter. That's the real value there. We abide by all the accounting policies and the appropriate estimates. Governmental Accounting Standards Board, or GASB, is the standard-setting body who dictates how the financial statements should be put together. We make sure that the county's financial statements are in compliance with those. Independence, this is probably the most important attribute of your external auditor, whether we're me or another firm, and that's if we're going to be the ones giving users of the financial statements assurance that the numbers are correct and fair, we better be independent and have no conflicts of interest. You know, I can't have my brother be the treasurer or something like that. That would be pretty big no-no from your external auditors to have somebody a little too friendly or tight ties at the county. So I can confirm in fact and appearance there are no conflicts of interest with myself, Jared, and actually everybody at Drescher Malecki. There are no issues with being independent from the county. Other matters, we can scroll through that, but in the event, you know, Kevin or his staff decided to say, no, you can't look at that, pick another one, and they started to dictate how we perform the audit, that would be a problem. And we would inform the group that we're not getting a full scope audit, is how we would describe that. But that hasn't been the issue. It's been a really, really good process in going through the audit each year with the staff here. So that was sort of a quick summary of the audit process, why we're hired, what's involved. The next few slides are going to include some information. We pull it actually from the New York State Controller's open book because it allows us to put it into a program and stack up your county amongst other counties. And it kind of becomes a little bit closer to apples as far as comparing. So the first couple slides focus just on your county, but then we pull out a few slides just for informational use. There's no conclusions to be drawn. We audit your past performance. We're not going to project the future or judge whether you're better or worse than other counties. It's just not an appropriate position. So first off is a line graph. And the focus here is on your general fund because, let's face it, that's the lion's share of the activity for your county. What you see here is the last 5 years. If you scroll down just a little bit, Kevin, if we could grab the years. There we go. Last 5 years, the blue line, kind of difficult to see here, but the blue line is money coming in, or new revenues, and transfers in. And the red line is your spending. So in a year where the blue is going to be higher than the red, those are years where your fund balance or your equity, you made money, if you want to call it. You made a surplus. In years where the red is above the blue, that would be a deficit year, and you dug into and used a little bit of fund balance to get through the fiscal year. So the focus here is on 2020, and what stands out is really the trending was a steady increase in both revenue and expenditures activity, which is typical of a New York State county. But 2020, we saw a decrease, and it was a true COVID year. You know, whether it's just conservatism because of the uncertainty on where revenues are going to come in and sort of locking down on spending, or if you're forced to make cuts, COVID resulted in a decrease in spending pretty significant. On the revenue side, you did see a marginal increase. That was almost wholly attributed to a favorable sales tax year when you weren't really expecting it. If I was here last year giving this presentation, it would have been a totally different tone because we had no idea where that was going. And it's a big revenue source for you. So on the next couple slides, first we'll take a look at your revenues in the general funds total just about a little over $180 million. And this is going to present the components of your revenues. So over to the right, these are the categories that you'll see in the financial statements also. And the one to point out is third from the top. In 2019, it was 48.3. 2020, 53.1. That's where your sales tax is. And that's the reason for the overall growth in revenues for the year. On the next slide, you can take a look at the spending side of things. And that's where we saw a decrease from 2019 of about $17 million. While you did see a decrease in the education and economic assistance and opportunity, that was mostly program related, and I'd say normally those are items that are offset with some state aid. The largest decrease is that bottom section, and that's representing the transfers out. And what that is primarily is the general fund using its money to help pay for the county's capital projects. So they transfer it out to a capital projects fund, and that's your investment in capital projects, infrastructure, big equipment purchases. There are bigger items going through capital projects. Fortunate for your county, you've been able to do it a lot on your own dollar. Thankful to some tax proceeds in the past, but rather than going out and issuing a lot of debt, you've been able to pay for this with county money. That took a decrease during 2020. Some of that task money, we exhausted it, and the total amount that went towards capital projects went down a little over $10 million from last year. So that's where you saw most of the savings. It wasn't really on operations. You kept the services that you provide to residents. It was the investment you were able to put towards capital projects this year that really saved the money in the general fund. So on the next slide, it just puts your total money coming in and your total money going out into a ratio form. And why it's important is, as a government, in a perfect world, take out politics and mandates. The goal would be that you raise just enough money to provide the services that you're providing your residents. In other words, you're not generating a profit, you're not bringing in or taxing more money than you need, and on the other end of the spectrum, you're not spending more than you're bringing in and creating a deficit that your taxpayers are going to have to fund. So that 1.0 would be that perfect dollar for dollar. If you look at the last 5 years, 2016 and 2020 were over 1. That meant you brought in more money, your fund balance grew. We know you're never going to be a perfect 1.0 consistently. So what you should strive for is, over the course of 5 to 10 years, can you average out to just about that 1.0, or maybe a little bit higher, to set some money into reserves to plan for the future. And after 3 years of using fund balance being under 1.0, 2020 came at a nice time to kind of replenish the fund balances that you guys have in your general fund. So further, this is where we get into some of the peers. We picked, and it's not totally arbitrary, we try to go by area and population. We go on to Open Book and select peer counties, just something to digest. Look at it, draw what conclusions you may. We present it really just to get the mind going. So Oswego, you see the last 3 years, so that's 18, 19, and 20 that's presented here. You have that favorable 1.08 in 2020. That was among the highest of the peers that we presented here. And several of them actually had decreases in performance from 19 to 20, whereas you guys experienced an increase. So that was a good time for that. On the next one, another comparison slide, we take a look at real property taxes and what's the proportion of your total budget that's represented by taxes. And what it says is here, Oswego has $52 million of real property tax in the general fund. That represents 28% of your budget. So you're in control. You set that number, right? And then you can see how do your peers, in this case, we selected them for you. You guys could definitely, on the last slide is our contact information. If you wanted to see this for anyone else or make it 10 wide, whatever you would want, please feel free to reach out. We can definitely put this together. But you're among your peers. Oneida is certainly lower. You'll see on the next slide that they rely on a different revenue source. So that's real property taxes. Next one is sales tax. And this one was particularly interesting last year because if you have too much reliance on sales tax, it's proven to be uncontrollable to a certain extent, unpredictable, it's volatile. Property taxes, like I said, you guys are in control. Sales tax, if you have too high of a reliance in your budget and sales tax takes a dip, you're going to hurt. You're going to hurt more than other counties that don't rely as much. So that's why this is an interesting number to take a look at. You guys are in the, just in the mix here, but what's interesting to look at is that every single county listed here is now more reliant or is collecting more sales tax revenue as a percentage of the whole fund than they did 5 years ago. And that's what that bottom set of bars is. That's 2013. Next up, this is sort of back to the financial statements and talking fund balance. If there's one number that a reader of the financial statements is going to look for and take away, it is your unassigned general fund balance. And why they look at it is because that's available fund balance. It's not earmarked or restricted for use. It's available for whatever comes the county's way. So because of that, that draws a bunch of attention from a reader. And the most common benchmark that someone might use to measure Oswego County to other, not just counties, even local municipalities, is they take that unassigned or available fund balance amount and they compare it to your year's spending, whole 12 months of expenditures. And they say, how much of a year could we get through on just our unassigned available fund balance? That's the most common benchmark that you'll see. Kevin's shaking his head when we go to conferences. This is a number that's talked about. And the GFOA is a best practice community out there. They've offered to have at least 2 months worth of spending in your unassigned this fund balance number. That would be 16.6667%. Oswego exceeded that number for 2020 because you had that real favorable year. Total fund balance went up $12 million. And you're now at 25%, so certainly a healthy amount. And when you look at it on the next slide, that compares to some peers, and here we present the last 3 years again. You see Oswego all the way on the left had that nice jump in 2020. Now, you're among the highest out there outside of Wayne, who's been doing excellent. This is also, again, just information because this doesn't consider how much fund balance do you have in the other classifications. So I mentioned this is the most available. This is only your unassigned fund balance. There's also restricted. Yep.
But wait a minute, doesn't Wayne use their sales tax for their school districts? So they don't keep their sales tax, do they? You actually audit?
I don't know. They're not a client person.
They don't give it all to
Oh, okay.
but they lose them like 50, almost
Half of it go, okay.
almost, if I remember right. It's either 25% or 50%.
So you're mentioning they retain more than,
No, they give away.
they give away more.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting that there's.
Yeah, I know, that's why I was asking that question.
What are they doing?
Well, what they, from my understanding, with the treasurer, they have a new treasurer, the past treasurer will raise taxes continuously. So it just beat and built up their money.
So they would do like an automatic 2 every year at least.
Yeah.
Alright, sorry.
Yep. No, that's fine. And if anybody has questions or input, please interrupt. It doesn't have to be just the presentation. So here's just the last 3 years of that percentage of your available fund balance and how it compares to these listed peers at least. So outside of Wayne, Oswego comes in at the high order. Overall, this is just our contact information, like I said, but we also, it's not just numbers, we do look at the policies and the procedures and how actual dollars and different transaction cycles are being handled. We look at payroll, we look at cash receipts, we look at bank reconciliations and say, how are things being done? And if we have ideas for input, we'll put them in like that management letter that I mentioned. There haven't been reportable findings, so a significant deficiency we haven't had since 2015.
I didn't hear that part. What was that?
So our first audit was of December 31st, 2014, was the first audit that we were doing. And in 2015,
Now I know what we're talking about.
there were, opinions aside, these are results of our audit. There were 2 findings in 2015. They were addressed in the subsequent year. And since then, there hasn't been a reportable finding, so a real significant finding. We have little bookkeeping things that we go back and forth and say, this could be better. It could be easier for your employees. It could be easier for us to audit.
You've said enough.
If these improvements were made, capital assets.
So our previous treasurer did a good job correcting mistakes, is what you're saying.
I won't say that.
Oh, okay.
I'm only been here part of this my 3rd year, so I won't get into that. You can draw what conclusions you want, right? But overall, we're riding up. We're outside of Buffalo. We're riding up today. I just asked Jared. Overall, take a step back. What would your input be on the counties? Like, honestly, over the past 2 years, they've improved their accounting and their bookkeeping. So it is primarily in the treasurer's office that we work during the audit, but we do get out and visit the different departments. It's really rewarding to work for a county that cares to make improvements. If we've identified something that could get better, and you don't just kick that under the carpet, you actually improve, we feel like it's not falling on deaf ears. So this is the first time I get to tell this group, you have management in place that's doing a good job, and you should know it. We hope it continues, because then we don't have to rate them up with a significant finding, but it's really been a pleasure, and if anybody has any questions today, please let me know, but I thought it was a good idea just to come out here and meet the group and share them with you. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It gives us an excellent snapshot. Good. Okay. Kevin, do you have anything else?
No, the team's done a great job. I'm just the IQ. Robin and staff down there really do a great job.
I think it should throw up in my.
Don't do it, Jared.
First by legislator Wilbur. Second by legislator Walpole.
Can I get
All in favor?
Full actual